There are people walking around this planet who never seem to struggle for anything. Opportunities just fall into their lap, the right people show up at the perfect time, and obstacles dissolve before they even become problems. This might trigger you if you're someone who thinks success requires grinding 24/7, because these people aren't working harder. They have developed such a strong frequency that reality literally reorganizes itself around them. And if you are exhausted from having to micromanage every detail of your life, if you're tired of working twice as hard as others and getting half the results or no results, and if you've ever wondered why some people seem to have everything flow effortlessly while you may be constantly trying to push against circumstances, this video is going to completely flip your understanding of how success actually works. Because what I'm about to show you isn't about working smarter, it's not even about working harder, or even about having better strategies. It's about developing such a coherent identity frequency that the quantum field has no choice but to arrange synchronicities, opportunities, and perfect timing around your vision. Because once you understand how to create this level of magnetic alignment, you'll never exhaust yourself forcing outcomes ever again. Because reality will become your ally instead of an obstacle or something that feels like it's working against you. So I used to be the opposite of effortless flow. Okay, I was that person who had to micromanage every detail, plan 17 steps ahead, and I came from a corporate background. Okay, and I forced every outcome through sheer willpower. I'd spend hours strategizing how to get a client while watching other people casually mention that they need work and then have 3 offers by the end of the week. And it was exhausting, honestly. I felt like I was constantly swimming upstream, pushing against circumstances that never seemed to naturally align with what I wanted. I'd work twice as hard as my competitors, but get half the results. And I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I was in the same masterminds as them. I was investing in similar strategies as them. But then I started paying attention to people who just seemed to just flow. And they were part of my masterminds as well. Like they'd have an idea and suddenly they have an idea and then suddenly the perfect investor would appear. They'd need help and the exact person would show up. Meanwhile, here I am with a very detailed action plan, trying to force every single step and wondering why everything felt so damn hard. And what I discovered was that these people weren't lucky, but they had just developed a strong, coherent frequency that reality literally reorganized itself around their vision. But let me tell you, once I learned how to create the same level of magnetic alignment, everything changed. Everything changed. What I'm about to share is the exact process that I use to help myself, my clients develop such strong identity frequencies that synchronicities become their normal experience. We're talking about people who go from forcing every outcome to having opportunities chase them. From exhausting struggle to effortless flow. From swimming upstream to having the current carry them exactly where they want to go or where they need to go. That's when I started studying people who seem to have this effortless flow. And what I discovered shattered my understanding of how success actually works. These people weren't just lucky, but they were operating from a completely different paradigm. And I started paying close attention to how these lucky people move through the world. They weren't constantly strategizing or forcing outcomes. They'd set intentions and then, wait for it, they'd actually trust that the right opportunities would appear. And they always did. Do you have that level of certainty and conviction within yourself? That's when I discovered the concept of identity frequency. You see, every person broadcasts an electromagnetic signature based on their core identity. And the quantum field responds to that frequency by organizing circumstances that match it. Like a radio tower, right? If you are broadcasting, let's say you are a radio tower and you are broadcasting classical music, you attract people who like classical music. If you are broadcasting rock, you attract rock fans. But if your signal is weak, it keeps switching between stations, you get static, and you get confused listeners who don't know what you're broadcasting. Similarly to the universe, it does not know what you're broadcasting. This is exactly what was happening to me. My identity frequency was all over the place. One day I would be broadcasting confident Kevin. The next day, anxious Kevin who needs to prove himself. Then the following day, someone who has to work harder than everyone else to deserve success. No wonder reality was giving me mixed results. I was sending out a confused electromagnetic signature or broadcasting something confusing. So the field was responding to my confused circumstances. Some things would work out, some things wouldn't, but there was no consistency because my frequency wasn't consistent. Like trying to order food at a restaurant and changing your mind every 30 seconds. I'll have the pasta. Actually, make that a burger. Wait, do you have salad? Never mind, let me get the pasta. And your waiter's like, bro, come on. You know what I mean? No wonder your food is taking forever to arrive. That's when I realized when your identity frequency becomes truly coherent and powerful, you create what's essentially a magnetic field around you that draws in aligned experiences while repelling what doesn't serve you. You become a walking attractive field for your desired reality. Facts. Here's what's wild. A strong identity frequency doesn't just attract what you want. Listen carefully. It accelerates the timing through increased synchronicities because you just are synchronized. You start experiencing impossible coincidences, perfect timing, serendipitous meetings that move your vision forward faster than strategy could. But it gets even more awesome. And this is the part that's going to challenge everything you think you know about planning and control. So listen carefully. The quantum field, or we can call it infinite intelligence, universe, source, that thing or it is infinitely greater than our logical mind's ability to strategize. When your identity frequency is strong and coherent, you can set intentions and watch as the perfect pathway unfolds without us having to orchestrate every detail. The field can create solutions and opportunities that you can never have conceived through planning alone. The field, the universe, source, can open doors and shut doors that we cannot. I remember the first time I experienced this. I'd been trying to land a particular type of client for months. I had strategies, outreach campaigns, ready to launch Facebook ads. Nothing was working. Finally, I got so exhausted from forcing it that I just let go. I set the intention to work with my ideal client, then focused on strengthening my identity frequency instead of micromanaging the how that client would come up or would show up. And within 2 weeks, I got introduced to my dream client through a completely unexpected connection. It was someone I met briefly at a cafe, who happened to know exactly the person I needed to meet. And no strategy could have orchestrated that level of perfect timing and serendipity. But this is where most people get stuck. They can't let go of control because they don't trust that reality will support them. Yep. But when your identity frequency is strong enough, you realize that the field's intelligence is working for you, not against you. What most people don't understand is the quantum field, the universe, source, has access to information and possibilities that our conscious mind can't even perceive. Remember, the conscious mind is only 5% of who we are. So when we try to control every detail, we are limiting ourselves to only the solutions our logical mind can only conceive. I know this is hitting for you. I know this is clicking. But when you develop a strong identity frequency and trust the field's intelligence, you open yourself up to solutions and opportunities that exist beyond your current level of awareness. The field can orchestrate circumstances in ways that seem impossible from a linear perspective. That's right. You have to drop this linear idea and start going quantum. But you might be asking, how do you actually develop this level of coherence? How do you create such a strong electromagnetic signature that reality reorganizes itself around your vision? Well, here's the important key. The strongest identity frequencies are created not by adding more techniques or practices, but, listen carefully, removing everything that creates static distortion in your electromagnetic field. Like cleaning my glasses lenses. I don't add more glass. I remove what's blocking the clarity. For me, the transformation came when I stopped trying to build a stronger frequency and started clearing the interference patterns that were weakening it. I had doubt patterns, unworthiness patterns, struggle patterns. I needed to struggle to be successful. Survival patterns, inherited limitations, all creating static or distortions in my signal. And when I cleared these distortion patterns through identity frequency mapping, my natural frequency underneath all of that shit became so pure, so powerful that reality had no choice but to reorganize itself around my vision. I wasn't trying to become magnetic. I was just magnetic because there was nothing disrupting my signal anymore. You are infinite. That is where you start from, okay? Like trying to get better mobile phone reception by yelling into the phone. No. What you actually need to do is move away from the thing that's blocking the signal. Okay? Same phone, same tower, but now you're standing next to a bunch of interference. When your identity frequency becomes truly coherent, when every level of your being is aligned with your vision, you create what I call effortless alignment. Better yet, effortless living. Okay? Opportunities don't just appear, they appear at perfect timing. People don't just help you, the exact right people show up with exactly what you need. When your identity frequency is this coherent, you literally become a magnet for your desired reality. You don't have to chase opportunities because they are drawn to your electromagnetic field. You don't have to convince people to help you because they are naturally attracted to your frequency. This is when we reach effortless living, where synchronicities become your normal experience because your whole being is synchronized. Did you catch that? You are synchronization itself. That is why synchronicities are your normal experience. Perfect timing is the rule rather than expectation, where reality constantly organizes itself to support your vision without you having to micromanage the details. And that's just a better way to live, in my opinion. But how do you actually develop this level of coherence? How do you actually create a strong electromagnetic signature that everything falls into place? Okay, write this down. You have to first identify what's creating the distortion in your current frequency. These are usually unconscious patterns like doubt, self-doubt, unworthiness, survival fears, inherited limitations that weaken our electromagnetic signal. And you have to ask yourself a different question. When I think about my biggest goals, what doubts or fears come up? If nothing, amazing. What stories do I tell myself about why it might not work out? What's possible for someone like me? Second, you need to align every level of your being with your desired identity. This means our conscious thoughts, subconscious beliefs, emotional patterns, and nervous system responses all need to be broadcasting the same frequency. Most people have internal conflicts that create mixed signals. A part of them, which is usually the conscious mind, wants success, while other parts, aka the subconscious, fears it. Part of them believes they deserve abundance, while another part feels guilty. These conflicts or incoherence weaken our frequency. Okay, that's second. Third, you have to develop trust in the field's intelligence. The universe, source, God, whatever it means to you. This means learning to set intentions and then allow the perfect pathway to unfold without trying to control every detail. Start with small experiments, okay? Set an intention for something you want and then pay attention to how opportunities and synchronicities appear. Notice how the field's intelligence creates solutions that we could have never planned. And fourth, you need to maintain your coherent frequency consistently, especially when circumstances seem to contradict your vision, meaning when your eyes are open and something's triggering you right there. This is when most people's frequency weakens because they go back to forcing outcomes. They go back to their old self. The key is remembering that temporary circumstances don't define your reality. Your identity frequency does. So when you maintain your coherent signal regardless of current conditions, reality has no choice but to reorganize to match your frequency. Fifth, you need to recognize and follow the synchronicities that appear. Okay? And they usually come from the body, unless they're like in the external environment. The field is constantly sending you signals and opportunities, but you have to be aware enough to notice them and aligned enough to act on them. By the way, these signals are not loud. Well, usually not loud. They are often subtle nudges. Okay? Start paying attention to coincidences, unexpected connections, and opportunities that appear without you having to try to force them. That is the field responding to your coherent frequency by organizing circumstances to support your vision. Here's what happens when you truly develop this level of coherent identity frequency. Well, you stop exhausting yourself trying to force outcomes and start experiencing the magic of effortless alignment. Reality becomes your ally instead of like a war. Okay, life becomes your ally instead of like a war, and it starts not becoming an obstacle. Instead of spending hours strategizing how to get clients, how to find the love of your life, the love of your life comes to you, and ideal clients start reaching out to you. Instead of forcing networking opportunities, I meet exactly the right people at the exact right time. Instead of pushing for outcomes flow naturally towards me. And the most profound change is in your energy. You stop feeling like you're swimming upstream and start feeling like you're being carried away by a current that's taking you exactly where you need to be. Effort becomes effortless. Struggle becomes flow. It's like finally learning that escalators exist after spending years taking the stairs everywhere. Okay, same destination, but now you're just standing there while something else just does all the work for you, getting you where you want to go. When you experience this level of effortless alignment, you realize that forcing outcomes was never necessary. We were just operating from a weak or incoherent frequency that required us to compensate through effort. But when our frequency is strong and clear, reality does the heavy lifting for us. And I know this challenges every hustle culture mentality that says you have to grind 24/7 to deserve success. And this might sound too good to be true, but like, how can reality actually reorganize itself around me? That sounds too good to be true, right? But here's the thing. Forcing outcomes is actually the hard way. When you are constantly pushing, planning, and controlling, you are working against the natural intelligence of the quantum field. We are limiting ourselves to the only solution our logical mind can conceive. When the field has access to infinite possibilities, you can't even imagine that. It has access to the terrain, above terrain. Okay? So if you are exhausted from having to micromanage every detail of your life, if you're tired of working twice as hard and getting half the results for others or not even any results, if you've ever wondered why some people have to have everything flow effortlessly to them while you are constantly struggling, I want to tell you it's not because they are luckier or more privileged. It's because they've developed a coherent identity frequency that reality naturally supports. You don't have to force every outcome. You don't even have to have 17 backup plans for everything. You don't have to exhaust yourself trying to control variables that are beyond our control. When your identity frequency is strong and coherent, reality becomes your ally instead of an obstacle. If you want to learn the exact identity frequency mapping process that I use to help clients develop such strong, coherent electromagnetic signatures that synchronicities become their normal experience, link is in the description. Because it's not about working smarter or even harder. This is about working with the natural intelligence of the quantum field instead of against it. Remember, you are not supposed to struggle for everything you want. When your identity frequency is strong enough, reality becomes your ally. Synchronicities become your normal experience. And everything starts falling into place because that's how the quantum field naturally responds to coherent electromagnetic signatures.